taking a deep dive into the business. It's the Turn Podcast, a golf business and experience podcast powered by Troon.
Welcome to another episode of the Turn Podcast. I'm Julia Kelly. Today here with co-host Kristin Kelly from RealFood Hospitality Strategy and Design.
Hello.
I'm really excited because this is the first podcast that we have been able to get chefs as guests. Chef Adam Ingraham from Broken Top, which is a private club in Bend, Oregon. Welcome, Chef Adam.
Hello, thank you. Appreciate it.
And Chef Tony Baclawski, who is with Fellows Creek Golf Club in Michigan. Welcome, Chef Tony.
Thank you.
So spring has sprung, except in Boston, Kristin, because you're dressed like winter. What did you say? It's like 30 degrees there?
It's like 39 to 41, depending on where the sunshine is facing you. But yeah, still pretty chilly. That breeze is cold.
Today we are talking about seasonality, inspired by spring. We thought it would be a great time, right, Kristin, to talk to these two chefs about seasonality.
Yeah, I think that seasonality is really awesome for specifically spring. It's where, a lot of the cool produce starts blooming. We all, I'm partial to ramps and a lot of like bright green vegetables. And so we all love the farm to table movement. Everyone loves to support your local farmer where you can, but in the business side of things, that can oftentimes be a challenge. I know a nice topic to get started with is how do you see integrating that into your club programs, and where is that sometimes not so possible?
Yeah. Well, let's start diving into private club versus daily fee. But, overall, Chef Adam, what are your general thoughts on seasonality and how do you work that into your menu at your private club?
Yeah, well, I'm from the Northwest originally, so I understand how our season goes. I get the stone fruit season comes, the rotation of the foods just from experience. But it's easy and difficult at times. When you're trying to still keep your costs low with great product, it is difficult sometimes to source locally because it just is not cost effective.
As trained chefs, right, Chef Tony, you're trained to probably incorporate seasonality and menu changes as you go along, regardless of who the customer is. How does it work for you at a daily fee club?
So a lot of times when we do the menus for parties and stuff, they'll ask for, perfect example is a fruit platter in the middle of winter. And, being in Michigan, winter is not a fruit season, obviously. So that costs a little more for the guests. And in order to get a good product, it has to come from usually a foreign country, so it costs a lot more, where summertime we can use the guy down the street's produce if he has produce.
Mm-hmm.
What do you find as some of the big things that pop up in spring that you're excited to work with?
I think with the springtime around here, morel mushrooms is a big thing. They're super expensive if you buy them, but they're good. They're very good, and everybody loves them around here.
Yeah, the morel season here pops off too. We have, unfortunately, we've had wildfires every single winter or every single summer. So the morel season is going to be great the next 10 years. And, you go to the grocery store, you can find them for 40 to 60 bucks a pound. If you got a local mushroom guy, sometimes they're affordable at 12 to 18. But usually, morels only grow after a wildfire really happens, blows through within a couple years. And they only grow for a couple years after that as well. So if you're in a region to be able to get a hold of those, that's always the first go-to.
Right.
Wow, you learned something.
Yeah, we got garlic grows a lot over here. We got garlic scapes is ramps is a week long or 2 week long. We got garlic scapes. That's a couple week long process here. And then we start getting a melon season up north in northeastern Oregon. It's Hermiston, and they're known for their watermelons, cantaloupes, any type of melon across the board. So those are the most sought after name dropping things you'll see in the grocery store. Once the members start seeing at the grocery store farmers market, that's when they're kind of aware of what's happening and start asking questions about it.
Both of your clubs are north of the Mason-Dixon line, as you said earlier, Chef Adam. Tony, there's a reason not to use the local produce?
I would say it's more of health code and making sure you're following the guidelines that the government puts in place, and for your sourcing of where your food's coming from, as a restaurant as a whole. because you don't want to cross that line where you go and say, oh, I'm getting this stuff, and you're making people sick because you don't know where it's coming from per se.
There are people out there that go and hustle product and try to just drop it off to you. You always got to make sure they got their business license, they got the health department certification. There are some people out there trying to hustle, make money, and that's what Tony mentions. You're like, oh hey, it looks awesome, amazing, but you don't know where it's coming from, how they handle it, what's happening. So that you always got to check and make sure if it is a person off the street that isn't a regular business, you have a license, you have your certification, has it been checked, like what are you going about? Because that's the last thing you want to do is try to go local and then make your membership sick or make members sick, because that's the ones that are hard to come back from.
That'd be a bad thing. What are your thoughts, Adam, on when you might not want to use local produce or products?
I would have to say the price point, or if you don't, like I mentioned before, you got to have a great relationship with your food purveyors. Even my local produce guy, something's not good in the warehouse, he won't even send it because he just knows that it's below standard. But the price point really is where it gets touchy. If you can catch the season availability of it, that works well. But when we're starting to hit the $6, $7, and $9 pound for lettuce, yes, it's local, yes, it's fresh, but through our true relationships and contracts, we can get organic lettuce and high-end products through, Cisco and US Foods and some of our other partners. So that's kind of where it kind of like that break-even point, or I know that at a private club or clubs, we're not here to generate revenue, but we're here to at least break even and make sure the membership understands that. So that's kind of where it falls off. The proteins are a little more expensive, and if you can balance that, it works. If some of the members go around town and eat food and they're like, well, this is so much cheaper, it's more affordable, how come this, how come that? Well, they get those organic products in and they can run that salad for $12 or $15, but when you go get your glass of wine, you're paying like $20 for a glass of wine. So that's how the restaurant side makes up for these differences, is being able to charge more. Being in a private club, everything has to be of value to the member, because the people that drink the wine, the people that drink the alcohol, the people that eat the burger, they all want value for what they're paying because they are paying to be a member here. And that's where it kind of gets challenging, is balancing that price point really, or the guest perceived value as well, because you can put a salad or a product on there and maybe it's a really small portion and the guest perceived value isn't there, even though the product quality is.
I think there's also an opportunity to show value in highlighting seasonality, and produce is a wonderful opportunity to do that. So I think that there's a cool angle with utilizing some seasonal items in specials programming and looking to the harvest calendar as inspiration for that.
In our area, we're more of like a city area, so the super local farm to table type of aspect isn't as popular because there's not the people around. Like once, I would say May and June start happening, then local fruit markets and vegetable markets start happening, and I can utilize that stuff more like once the season is fully going, because kind of like with Boston, we still are getting like cold nights and stuff where it's not full season for the vegetables and the fruit yet.
Oh, totally. I mean, but we're like pretty full swing in ramp season and peas and asparagus. We got lots. I got a refrigerator full of ramps myself that I'm excited to figure out what I'm doing with them. So
Right.
What's going on in the Pacific Northwest right now?
Well, we got smashed with a bunch of snow a couple of weeks ago, so that kind of set everything back. But the emails I'm getting from the local farmers is the produce, they're starting to pick produce. And usually the first things that go are your leftover root vegetables from the wintertime, or whatever they're pulling out of the ground, your parsnips, your beets, your carrots, potatoes, all the flavors. The lettuces are growing because people grow them kind of in hot houses until it warms up, and then they uncover them. We're going to start hitting like the ramp season's happening, the garlic season, the garlic scape season will start happening here pretty soon. And when it comes to the ramps or garlic scapes, for example, I try to utilize them as much as possible. You can make garlic scape pesto, you can pickle the garlic scapes, you can do a lot of stuff with it. And that's really what it comes down to, is taking that product, because most of the time with local farmers, you got to order a pretty nice quantity that is a little bit overwhelming when you have to order 10 or 20 pounds of something. So you really have to figure out how to utilize that product in 2, 3, 4 different ways.
Yeah.
And for me
Pickling
personally,
is
like
a really
here,
cool way to stretch it.
yeah, and because you really have to get money out of that product. You know, if you just want to have it for one application, then it's going to go bad before you even have a chance to use it. And now you're just not wasting that amazing product. You're throwing money away. And
Right.
realistically, what I try to teach everyone here in the kitchen is everything is money. Whether it's a piece of lettuce or a cup or anything, that is the craziest things. Like everything costs money. And to get people to understand that and understand the value, it's becoming easier, but you really got to teach your product well so it lasts longer so you can make some money out of it.
Absolutely.
Pretty much like, for example, asparagus, right? It starts in Mexico, then California, Oregon, and then Washington. So that usually we'll start seeing our local asparagus product that's in America probably here in the next week or two. And then when it comes to May, we'll start seeing Oregon and Washington asparagus. Then you hit the strawberry season. We'll start to get into California strawberries, then Oregon strawberries, Washington strawberries. Then we get into stone fruit season. And the stone fruit season kind of goes, cherries come out of Montana and Washington first, then Oregon. Then it rotates into plum season, then nectarine, then peaches, then apples in the fall. So if you kind of know when these, and blueberries are in August all the time, but if you kind of got a realm of when this stuff's coming or should be, you at least have a 2 or 3 week window of when you're asking, hey, do you have this product? Is it available? Then you start making your menu changes or planning that type of product change. So you know, it just takes the conversations and understanding like how to treat your product, when's it coming in. It's just this was just a lot of moving parts.
I think that it's interesting also with you, Chef Adam, being at a private club. Chef Tony, you're at a daily feed club. Chef Adam has members coming every single day. Like he knows he's got an audience every single day. How is it different in your world? And then especially how that relates to how you source ingredients.
So like this time of year, this year, winter was really mild. So we had golfers like basically all year round. But like on a normal year where we have a winter, there's less people coming through our door throughout the winter, and we still try to be available at least for lunchtime, you know, for people that want to come in for lunch. But like as the season ramps up, then we have the league golfers and outings and stuff, and then that's when our business starts to flourish, I guess you could say. And then that's when I can start getting more product in, where if there's not any business really happening, that's when it's hard to say, okay, let me have all this product sitting here and then no one's coming and using it.
When the wintertime comes here, we don't really know when the departure happens for our membership that goes to the warmer weather for the cold season up here. So there'll be weeks where like, oh, we're really busy, and you kind of realize, oh, that was everyone's goodbye time, or like, hey, I'll see you in 6 months. And then the next 2 or 3 weeks, you're like, oh, we're not going to continually be busy. Now we got to figure out what we're doing with this product right here, because it's not like anyone sends an email and goes, hey, there's 100 people taking off here in a week. You're like, all right. And there is a fine line. You know, you're always communicating with your office people, who what's the membership you guys are communicating with, you know, because they get hands-on with the membership in a different way than food and beverage does. And just to kind of feel out what they're doing, it's been easy the last couple of years kind of understanding how that works, so you're not over ordering and having products in the ground.
Yeah, I imagine you also both have to deal with those menu items that are the sacred cows, you know, the members and the recurring customers. They always want to be able to come there for the dish that they love.
Right.
What's your experience with that, Tony?
So there's a lot of people that, like the league golfers, for example, because they've been here many years. They're like, oh, well, why isn't this on the menu? Why isn't this on the menu? Oh, I like to eat this. But then we'll put it on the menu and then no one orders it. Then they're like, oh, well, I want to have this instead of that. And it's like, well, you keep asking for something, but then you're not eating that.
Yeah.
Tony, I want to give you a hug right now, buddy. I want to give you a giant hug because that is the realest thing that I have experienced. That's the realest thing. Yes, because that mental frustration and sanity, you're like, man, I don't have any more hair to pull out. Like
exactly.
I mean, I just wanted the option to do it. Didn't mean I was gonna.
Yeah.
Like the option to order it.
Yeah. I kind of luck out a certain way to where I run 5 to 7 different specials a week. And from what I understand, before we went private in 2019, and before that, it was open to the public and membership. And this place was in Wine Spectator magazine. And it's always been known as a pretty, like, not fine dining, but a higher end type of club food from what I understand. And so our clientele kind of expects a certain level of food, but running those specials every single week, if I sell 40 or 50 of an item, I'm like, awesome, I'll put that on the menu. And just like what Tony said, you put it on the menu and it doesn't sell. So I have the option of running those specials to kind of have a pivot point of, like, I pretty much get an R&D every week. If it's a hit item, I just check it off a box and go, hey, when the season comes, we're going to put this on the menu. So that's a really beneficial. But also last year I did 44 weeks worth of specials. So times that by 5 to 7 dishes, that's a lot of creation.
Keeps everybody entertained all the time, you know?
Yes.
Creativity is the opposite of stagnation.
Right. What about seasonality going beyond plants and vegetables?
Like proteins and grains.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, outside of the fruit and vegetable game here in Central Oregon, I mean, everywhere grows animals, you know, and usually you can go to the farmer's market and find proteins, whether it's lamb, cow, chicken, it doesn't matter.
So
but
seasonality really doesn't factor into that.
No, it doesn't. The timing of the year, just the way the animals grow themselves, you know, usually the cows eat all summer long and then they kind of get butchered in the fall. So if you're aware of that and you're trying to buy meat when you're trying, well, specifically cows, right? Beef prices are going to be pretty high for the next 8 to 10 years because of the lack of water to grow food. So that's happening. But if you're getting a cow in the summertime, it's going to be a different weight and different type of product and quality than it is in the fall, because the animal has to have its life cycle for that meat to taste the way that we're used to tasting it. The other thing with the farm-to-table deal with proteins is grass-fed beef or grass-fed, naturally fed animals taste different than what we're used to eating at the grocery store.
Right.
So that's another situation that happens with membership. Like, oh, this beef tastes weird. It's like, well, or different. It's like, it's just organic. It's naturally grown. So it's a part of the game is also educating the membership on, hey, this actually is nice organic quality food. This is how it tastes. What we're used to eating is a little bit different. And it's like a big part of it is also the education to the membership.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We have some people that, you know, we see them regularly once a week or twice a week that come in for lunch or for dinner with the golf leagues. But I would say with the educational, the people that are coming in are more, it's not as much with the education as much as I just want something to eat. Like, I don't want to know about it. I just want something to eat and I want it to be good.
Yeah.
They know they want it to taste good.
Right.
Yeah.
What about seasonality related to the age of the guest? Is there a difference?
For us here, I wouldn't say there's really an age difference for seasonality. I mean, I look at it and I'm like, it's the middle of December and it's 20 degrees outside. Like, why would you want to golf? But if there's no snow on the ground, we constantly have people here golfing. And some of them are in their 20s and some of them are in their 80s.
Yeah.
It's all just, you know, if that's what you want to do, that's what you're going to do.
Yeah. What Chef Adam at a private club, you've got younger clientele, older clientele. Do they eat differently? And do you plan your seasonality based on that?
Yes, there definitely is a shift when the season comes. There is a definite different information and needs and wants of food. Right now, everyone's kind of coming back from the south because the golf course is opening up, and those are the clientele that are, I'd say, more health conscious, that have more dietary restrictions, whether they have gluten allergies, dairy allergies. You know, it's becoming more common. So that's the deal where they're more aware of the farm to table food, the local produce, healthy grains as opposed to pastas and rich stuff versus, you know, processed versus non-processed. And then in the wintertime, that's kind of where our membership kind of hunkers down, and that's where you start getting your hearty foods like your stroganoffs, your chicken piccata, your meatloaf, those type of items. So there definitely is a change. And I'm noticing that some of our younger clientele actually stick around during the winter, which is nice because we can still keep that vibe going of the more of the healthy options. But there definitely is a difference, and I think that as we do more of this healthier, lighter, local produce food throughout the summertime, it sticks because whatever people order, you know, they're really enjoying it. So the transition and I guess the education is happening, you know, because my deal was like, if we can we can keep everyone around another 10 years at the club. That's awesome. So if we can feed them healthy and pump them full of a lot of energy and juice, maybe they're knocking 5 strokes off their golf score. You know, they don't even know it because the food
Right.
they eat at the club.
Because of how well you're feeding
That's kind
them.
of how I sell it. I'm like, eat this quinoa instead of that hot dog, guys. You're really gonna enjoy your life tomorrow. You're gonna feel better. You're gonna play better golf. You know.
I love that. Well, so what would your advice be to an operator who wants to be more seasonal with their offering in relation to how they work with purveyors?
Go for it, Tony.
I would say, I mean, just talk to the local farmers, the local, meat people, vegetable people. And if they're not coming to you, you can go to like the local farmers markets and stuff and contact them and say, hey, we have an opportunity if you want to work with us, and use the locally sourced products.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Is if you can't, it's hard when you're a chef or you're food and beverage guy, your time is very, very, very limited. Specifically now in the days with the shortage of labor or the skill set in the labor, or when this golf season picks up, you're doing more events. So going to the farmers market is a great resource because everyone's there. And like Tony mentioned, just reach out, and go, hey, I work at this restaurant. Here's what I have going on. It'd be great to establish a relationship. And that's where those conversations start happening, to where they have a price point, you have a price point, you kind of meet in the middle. A good thing too is also just grabbing a book and checking out and see what products are available in what seasons and when they will be available. And then that's the questions you can bring to the farmer. There's farmers here to where like they will grow whatever people want. Like if I go, hey man, I want you to grow this product, they'll start laying seed next year for it. So there's farmers that already have their system that they work with, and there's other farmers that are like, hey, if you want it, we'll grow it, which is a cool thing to have. But they don't really teach, and it's really hard in most restaurants to understand how to make those connections with local farmers, or the local produce people. You really have to stay on top. I mean, I have a better relationship with my food purveyors than I do my friends. They're really helpful. They really help me out a lot because they make my life easier. And I think since COVID, that relationship has become one, as opposed to before it just was a business with a rep that's trying to sell you stuff to get money from you, and you're trying to get the best price, the haggling process. It takes the whole entire system now for the system to survive. And what was cool is, the Cisco's and your US Foods and everyone realized the labor shortage and really stepped up their pre-made products, whether it's desserts or chopped lettuces or whatever it is. Like they stepped up their game because they understand what the trends are. People wanting to eat healthier, the labor shortage, the skill set, that's a big thing. So they understand that. So to get away from that and start reaching out to your local people, like it takes a lot of time and a lot of thought. There's a lot of outside work, whether you're in the kitchen working or not, I'm at home working or I'm on the phone just trying to keep the ball rolling. And it's a 24/7 game, and it's especially when you're dealing with the seasonality of food, and maybe one farmer lives 10 minutes out of town, but the other guy lives an hour. That's another thing too, is the transportation, and like maybe they can only come to town one day a week, and so you got to really work and establish these relationships to make it worth your while and make it worth their while too.
And then you're basing your menus and your specials off of what's available at what times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And then you're like, okay, well, this is going to happen. And then like, where we all live, it could snow in the middle of summer. And you're like, all right, well, now we're pivoting from lettuce that's frozen or product A, B, and C that we're not getting, but you already have that menu plan. And you're like, okay, what are we doing? What's the pivot to utilize what we have and not waste it and still put out good products? I look out here, I'm able to have I have a chamber vacuum sealer that's paid for itself 10,000 times over with the vacuum sealing of proteins, the portioning, the lifelong stuff. I mean, I'm still using product that I used for Easter this week because I've been able to preserve it in a way that doesn't compromise. So I mean, there's our techniques out there, and there are systems and tools, and that's like a big part of it too. I mean, if you spend $3,000 on a vacuum sealer, that thing will pay for itself within 2 or 3 months easily.
Right.
That's a good tip.
Yes, big time. Yes, the chamber vacuum sealer. I mean, we just our membership loves Italian food, right? So we just got a pasta extruder. So now I'm paying pennies for pasta, put it in the machine, you pick your die or shape, and it pops it out. You know, it's a really cool thing. The private club thing is there's a piece of the pie you don't really get at a restaurant. You get a lot of feedback of what they want. And you're like, okay, hey, we can totally do that. That totally makes sense. Other things, you're like, okay, maybe we can do that every once in a while. But when people want tacos, which are really cost effective, pasta's cost effective, they've not really eaten much of the proteins anymore. You got your steak eaters every once in a while. But the way that I noticed the private club game going is it's the pivot towards the healthier food, to the seasonality of food, to the local grains, your quinoas, your lentils, your healthy fibers, your non-processed breads and foods. I mean, we get our bread from the local bakery. So, I mean, and not everyone has that option, but the clientele is, I think, pivoting and shifting towards more of the healthy food. But then again, when is it available? You know, what's the cost on it? It's a really hard balance.
Yeah. And then they show up probably, Tony, at your place and they want their grilled cheese and French fries.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, what's the burger of the week? I want that. Give me the burger.
Yeah.
Give me the burger. Give me the burger.
Yeah, we get that too. We got our people that got to have the Cobb salad, the wedge salad, you know, the bolognese, stroganoff. We got our regular members. I mean, there's stuff that isn't even on the menu that we just have on hand because those 5 or 6 people come in and order it, and they have for the last 20 years. So we're like, we got you, man. We'll have that here for you. So that's another thing too, is I come from the civilian life, not the private club life in the restaurant game. And it's been interesting to know that I probably have 20 or 30 items on hand at any time just because of the membership and what they really like. It isn't worth putting on the menu, but we definitely have it on here in hand for the people that really want it.
Right.
Something else that I thought of when we were talking about seasonality outside of just vegetables and touching on proteins, and there wasn't a ton of variation with like the meat side of seasonality, but something that popped in my head was seafood. I feel like there is a high amount of seasonality in the seafood that we're able to get. Pacific Northwest jumps in my head with salmon season. So I was wondering what kind of circle you see happening with that kind of realm.
Yeah, I mean, it's real, you know. The salmon does have a season. Unfortunately, the last couple of years, the salmon fishing, at least off the coast of California, has been closed. So you have to get it creative organic salmon from Canada, which is a super amazing product, or over in Norway, they got a good program. But as that happens during like the wintertime, the shellfish is awesome. That's when you eat your oysters, your clams, your mussels. When the water gets warmer, that's when you don't eat that. The fish available during that time is pretty much tropical. Now you're having everything shipped from the equator, whether it's mahi, your different flavors of tuna. All those tropical fish are usually your wintertime fish. And then as the season comes and warms back up, and you get to your rockfish, your lingcod, your salmon, your halibut season opens up. That's only a very, very limited window. Same thing with crab. The way that everything is going right now, everything's kind of overfished. So they put limits on seasons for the fishing. Yeah. But there definitely is a season on things. And if you're up on top of it and you talk to your food purveyors, you can really get a hold of it. I mean, it's a little bit different for me getting salmon in Oregon than it is getting salmon in Arizona. You know, that's a whole totally different process. You know, Tony lives up in Michigan. There's probably a lot of fish coming from the East Coast or out of the Great Lakes that I don't ever see or know.
Exactly. I mean, and it's just like he was saying, it's the different seasons. Like in Michigan, we have a ton of rivers and lakes, and then obviously the Great Lakes. So with the fish, as opposed to like the mussels, the clams, the shrimp, all that stuff, that's more, you know, available, I would say more so on the coastlines. And then like we have to order that stuff to have it shipped here, or it comes in frozen, which isn't the best. Like ours is more of the fish seasons, you know, the different water temperatures and when the fish are available.
Well, this has been so interesting, and I just love this whole topic of seasonality, and I certainly have learned a lot from you both. Thinking about what happens in a chef's head, there's a lot going on there that I think that the regular customer or member doesn't even have any idea.
Right.
Very true. Very true. And the people that do get it, and the thank yous and the hellos and the handshakes, it really goes a long way. It really does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everything that you're doing at our clubs to not just support your local economies, but also provide a great experience to the members and to the guests.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. You're welcome. We appreciate you guys doing this. This is really cool. I hope that somebody gets something out of this podcast, you know, and anyone wants to send an email and ask questions about something, I have no problem helping out.
Right, absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. We'll put your contact information in the summary. And Kristin, thank you so much for being here as my co-host. Always fun to see you.
Yes, of course. It was great.
And thank you to our listeners. Tune in again next time.
This has been The Turn, a golf business and experience podcast powered by Troon. Every episode is available on troon.com, and subscribe to The Turn podcast through iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, or wherever you prefer to download your favorite shows.